Welcome to the Michigan Golfer Show with your host, Bill Shelton. Join us each week as we explore the people, the places, and the events that shape our great game.
Welcome to the Michigan Golfer. We've been looking at the Ryder Cup, and we'll continue today by looking at the decade of the 80s. Now, since the end of World War II and the resumption of Ryder Cup play, the United States had dominated. A team from Great Britain, then later a team from Ireland, but in the late 70s, that team from Great Britain and Ireland suddenly became the European team. 1981, the United States team would still come out on top, but that was the last year of domination by the American team in Ryder Cup play. Once again, we have Walter Hagen with us to take a look at the Ryder Cup and some of the things that occurred during that particular period of time. Certainly, the impact of broadening the opposing team to all of Europe was beginning to make a difference in competition.
All of a sudden, you had a larger talent pool to draw from. And golf was not just popular in America and Great Britain. I had played all over the world and seen the effect of it. Japan, Australia, and now especially in Europe, it was really coming into its own game. And here was a chance finally to put American players up against Europe and see what they could do. And it changed the whole dynamic of what the game was.
Even though the United States, with a strong performance by Nicklaus and Watson in the 81 Ryder Cup matches, 1983 things got very, very tight, and Seve Ballesteros had not been allowed to play in 81 because of some violation of some technical rules over there. But in 1983, he hit a shot that certainly may have been considered one of the greatest shots in Ryder Cup history.
He's a man after my own heart. He got in trouble a lot, but often recovered quite well. And at this point in time, he had a 3-wood, and he was 240 yards away from the cup, and he was in a bunker. And he needed to make a good shot in order to have the hole. Well, he hit that shot, and when you know it, came very close to actually going in. And as a result, he was able to have the hole, and it turned the momentum around for the Europeans. For once, the Americans were on the run. And if it wasn't for another wonderful shot by Lanny Watkins in the very, very last match, we might have lost that one. But luckily, we came out 14.5 to 13.5.
Well, so in 1983, America squeaks by, the U.S. team squeaks by, but then comes 1985. And with 1985 comes the Europeans' first victory. And certainly the tide had turned. We weren't talking about Great Britain. We were talking about a European team. They win in 85. And then in 87, they come to Muirfield, Jack Nicklaus home course in Ohio. And there, once again, and indeed for the first time on U.S. soil, the European team wins. And someone who's known for his gentle nature had an uncharacteristic moment in his golfing career.
Gentle Ben Crenshaw, actually. The Ryder Cup is a boiling pot, and it just puts these golfers up on edge. And Ben missed a putt, and he took it out on his putter. He broke his putter, snapped it in two. He was so angry. And because he didn't have another putter in his bag, he was forced to play with a 1-iron to putt for the rest of the tournament, at least the rest of that match. Losing to the Europeans was really a blow to the Americans in 85, and it was starting to get to the Americans.
The new day had begun in Ryder Cup competition, and then in 1989, it's a 14-14 tie between the two great teams. And another thing happened really in 89 that Walter, over the years, I think it's a watershed in terms of competitive golf because it's changed the nature. In 1989, this became a very commercial event. There were tents. There were all kinds of corporate sponsorships. And all of a sudden, you were having to look at a golf course, not just for the holes and the layout of the course, but the ability to host the kind of events that would go with it. It certainly changed how golf courses would be looked at and many constructed, frankly, in years to come.
Once the game became competitive, it became exciting, and it became something that companies wanted to be associated with and people wanted to go to. So immediately the crowd sizes began to balloon. Both sides wanted their teams to win. And so they had to start looking at courses and seeing what courses could accommodate such large crowds. 350,000 square feet tents had to be erected. Media everywhere. It became an event unto itself. It had a life of its own. So really from '89 on, and because of the Europeans showing up and starting to beat Americans on home soil, it changed the entire terrain, literally.
Well, indeed, 1989, a whole new approach to how golf courses were laid out. Many of the courses that had been sites in previous years no longer, because of the configuration, because of the availability of space, no longer could they be used anymore. So some great golf courses got put aside. But I think that, as you say, the domination of the United States team all of that time and now, it's changed. And the spirit of competition, and we would see in the decade of the 90s and the early 2000s, a fierce competitive spirit between the European team and the United States team. And in future editions of the Michigan Golfer, we're going to look at the decade of the 90s. Thank you for watching the Michigan Golfer.